Welcome back to PC-98 Paradise. Welcome back to a very spooky edition of PC-98 Paradise, the series where we take a close look at games for Japan's dearly departed PC series, the NEC PC-98. Corpse Party rose from the depths of hell in 1996 as a small indie game on the PC-98, made using cursed RPG Maker software. While well liked among those who played it, the game wallowed in obscurity for over a decade before its original creator was able to remake it for several popular platforms. It then eventually found a sizable cult following and went on to spawn multiple sequels, spin-offs, a manga and a short anime series, and even 2 live-action movies. The game is considered to be highly influential, genre-defining even. It totally defined the high school kids trapped in a spooky school genre. And a brand new Corpse Party game is due out in 2026. But obviously, here on PC-98 Paradise, we're primarily interested in the original PC-98 version. And as a complete newcomer to the series, this is going to be sort of an outsider's perspective. So if, like me, you know little to nothing about this series, you've come to the right place. Let's find out together what Corpse Party is all about, and whether the original 1996 version still holds up today. So, once again, rather than being built from the ground up, Corpse Party was made using the popular software RPG Maker, known as RPG Tsukuru in Japan, which was first released for the MSX2 in 1990. Since then, RPG Maker has been upgraded and ported to practically every PC and console imaginable. The PC-98 version of RPG Maker, known as RPG Tsukuru Dante 98, was first released in 1992, and it was the specific software that was used to make Corpse Party. ASCII, the company behind RPG Maker, had their own computer magazine, Login, and Login Softcom, where they would regularly publish amateur software, many of which were made using RPG Maker. They'd even offer cash prizes for games that were judged to be the best. Corpse Party was first included on the CD-ROM with issue number 6, spring 1996, as well as later issues. The game did also eventually win the top prize in one of the Softcom contests, though it had to share the title with 2 other games. Later on, the game was also distributed as freeware online. But I'm going to install the game using the CD-ROM included with this Softcom issue. Though it can be assigned to any letter, traditionally the CD-ROM drive on a PC-98 is designated as Drive Q. So first I'll access Drive Q and open the only directory on the disk, LS6. This disk contains games for both PC-98 and Windows, so I'll open the PC-9801 directory. Inside there are batch files to install each of the games mentioned in the magazine. If you're curious about what else is on this CD-ROM, here's a sort of film noir detective-themed game made using RPG Maker. And here's a shmup that obviously wasn't made using RPG Maker. It plays pretty well for a PC-98 shmup, I guess, and has some cool little effects, but it's pretty flickery and the challenge level somehow feels both too hard and too easy at the same time. But that's enough of that. To install Corpse Party, we run corpse.bat. It asks which drive we want to install the game on, and I'll pick my hard drive, A.
It's installing! It's installing!
When installation is complete, we just have to find the newly created Corpse folder on my hard drive and run corpse.bat inside. For a split second, we get an RPG Maker splash screen, which I'll freeze frame here so you can see it, and then the Corpse Party title screen. We can start a new game or continue, and then choose whether or not to watch the opening, which of course we'll do. The game begins on a stormy night, where a girl named Ayumi is telling a ghost story about a girl who went to their school long ago, who fell down a stairwell and died. Afterward, her body supposedly walked away and disappeared somewhere into the school, so the dead girl was treated as missing rather than deceased. Suddenly, the students hear a voice from somewhere that says, "It was a rainy day after school, just like this one." While they're trying to figure out who just said that, someone turns the lights on in the classroom. It's Naomi, who reminds them that they've stayed after school to get ready for the school festival tomorrow. But next the power goes out, and they hear a mysterious knock on the door. Everyone is too afraid to answer it, but eventually our main protagonist, Satoshi, is elected to do so, and we take control of the game for the first time. We can open the menu and see all of the options built into RPG Maker, such as magic and equipment, but few of these are actually used in Corpse Party. However, we can see a list of our current items and save the game. When Satoshi opens the door, it's his younger sister, Yuka, who has come to bring him his umbrella. She ends up sticking around to help them prepare for the festival, but next they hear a voice say, "Help me," and the power goes out again. Next, even more chilling, is the sound of someone playing the organ in the music room. While they're contemplating investigating the sound, there's a loud crash, and the screen turns a bunch of different colors. And when it's finally over, they find themselves in an unfamiliar, dilapidated classroom. They can see only darkness outside the permanently closed windows. All they know is that they want to get the hell out of here, and so they decide to split into two groups to find a way out. We next get the character introduction screen, where we play as an eyeball and walk up to each character to read their profile. Our main protagonist is Satoshi Mochida, age 17. He's a bit of a coward and can never stand up to Naomi, but he's a good brother to his little sister, Yuka. Naomi Nakashima has always been in the same class as Satoshi since junior high. While she outwardly says she's tired of being around him, they both seem to take notice of the other a lot. Yuka Mochida is Satoshi's sister in junior high. She looks up to her brother, but can't quite seem to grow up yet. Yoshiki Kishinuma is the other male character I haven't mentioned yet. He likes to tease people and crack jokes, but is generally a good guy when it comes down to it. Last is Ayumi Shinozaki, the class leader who loves ghost stories, but in fact she's a huge scaredy cat who only tells ghost stories to try to hide her fear. So while you might think that this screen would allow you to choose your two parties, you don't get a choice. Naomi and Yuka will go along with Satoshi, while the other party will consist of only Yoshiki and Ayumi. We start off as Satoshi's party. Corpse Party is a game where you explore and find items rather than fight battles. You'll want to investigate every object in each room in this small and short game. Here in this first room, we'll need to pick up this wooden board in the corner. Throughout the game, finding these will allow you to cross small gaps in the floor. First, Satoshi's party will have to go upstairs and explore the hallway there. We find two empty classrooms and a locked door before talking to this skeleton. It tells the group that they have been brought to an alternate dimension where time stopped 40 years ago. Most importantly, the skeleton tells them that they and all the ghosts were brought here by the will of a restless, evil spirit, and that there doesn't seem to be a way out. However, in the end, it tells them not to give up. There must be some way that the students can avoid being trapped here forever, like them. But anyway, soon after, they find a pentagram on the floor. These pentagrams allow you to switch to the other party. When the second party, consisting of Yoshiki and Ayumi, walk out of the first classroom, the hallway crumbles and changes shape. So the two parties will have to each explore completely different sections of the school which don't connect. First, they will find a window where blood suddenly appears, and while they're investigating, the player will see a figure in a red dress pass behind them and enter the room behind. Go inside, and it's the science room, where an anatomy dummy will suddenly move and chase you. If you can manage to get around and avoid it for a while as it chases you down the hall, both characters will survive. But if you get caught, either Yosuke or Ayumi can die based on your choices, causing you to take a different route and get a different ending. But let's continue on with both characters alive. Yosuke and Ayumi find the classroom of Class 2-9, where for a brief instant, they see their own classroom back home before quickly being taken back to the old decrepit schoolhouse. And this will be explained later. Afterward, this classroom is blocked off by a force field. Let's touch a pentagram and get back to Satoshi's party. They find a couple of hallways which have these green things on the floor that drain your HP. To regain your HP, you can use the beds in the nurse's office, or the spirit who heals you. By the way, if you do die in this game, it's kind of funny that it just dumps you back into DOS. But anyway, over this gap in the floor with an invisible walkway, you can find some anti-magic shoes to protect the party's feet from the green things. On the other side of the hallway is the bathroom, where another scene can dramatically change the course of the game. Here they'll meet that figure in the red dress, and depending on Satoshi's decisions, either Yuka or Naomi can be killed in the toilet stall as it fills up with blood. But again, let's continue on here with all characters still alive. The party will find a crowbar and use it to pry away this wall covered in blood to enter the music hall. There they'll find a force field preventing them from getting to the piano, and a room with two statues that look as if they should be holding something. We'll need an item which we don't have yet to move on here, so for now let's switch to the other party. At this point in the game, when you take Yosuke and Ayumi back to Classroom 2-9, they will suddenly be transported back to their own classroom back home, as if the whole thing was a dream. You can switch back to the other party here if you want, but eventually, when all conditions have been met, going in and out will take Yosuke and Ayumi to a half-reality, half-old schoolhouse version of their classroom, where the figure in red will appear and explain all. And I guess that means we had better put a spoiler warning. All the modern remakes of this game are so different from the PC-98 version that this video really isn't going to spoil those versions. I would only worry about spoilers here if you're planning to play the original PC-98 version, which is currently only available in Japanese, or the fan-made rebuild of the PC-98 game for Windows made using RPG Maker XP. That one is available in English, and is pretty close, but not quite exactly the same as the PC-98 original. Anyway, if you don't mind having either of those two versions spoiled, keep watching. The figure in red explains that indeed, she is the girl from the ghost story that Ayumi told at the very beginning of the game, but the real story is a bit different. A teacher was making inappropriate sexual advances toward her, and so she threatened to tell everyone and get him in trouble. But the teacher mocked her and told her that no one would believe her since she didn't have any friends, and so she threatened to throw herself from the third floor down the stairwell. As the teacher continued to come toward her and try to grab her, she lost her balance and really did fall to her death. The teacher tried to hide her body, but was found out by the school principal. Not wanting to damage the reputation of the school, the principal helped him to bury the body under the school. She was treated as a missing child by the authorities and eventually forgotten. Of course, she put a curse on the teacher responsible until the day he died, but as her spirit wandered the school and saw the faces of happy students, she became conflicted and her spirit was divided into two. One that felt nothing but emptiness and hating others forever, which is the good side speaking to them now, and the other that hated everyone and began bringing innocent students to join her in her own hell version of the old school. But for whatever reason, in recent years, the evil side's power has been getting weaker, and the good one was able to bring Yosuke and Ayumi back to the real world. They ask if she can save Satoshi and the others too, but she says she can't because her evil side is too close to them now. The only way to save them is for Yosuke and Ayumi to go back to the old school and dig up her body, allowing her to pass on to the next world. With some hesitation, Ayumi and Yosuke eventually agree to go back. There, the good spirit gives them a marble statue and tells them to give it to Satoshi and the others, as they'll need it. The game then pops in to explain that although the two parties have a shared inventory, they'll have to physically give it to the other party before they can use it. And so you have to take both parties to this gap, which is the only place where they can meet, and hand the statue across. As a side note, while I found most of this game to be pretty easy to figure out on my own with some time, the fact that you have to hand the item over this way was the one thing I was too dumb to figure out without watching a playthrough on YouTube. And you better do it before moving on to this next part, or you'll become permanently stuck. Yosuke and Ayumi go to the boiler room in the basement, where the good spirit gives them the key to the night watchman's room. There they find a yellow ribbon, as well as the last of several letters around the school detailing how to enter the passage behind the boiler. The last note is also maybe the only place in the PC-98 game where the dead girl's surname is ever mentioned, Shinozaki, and it was only in later versions where she was given her full name. Anyway, to enter the boiler, they have to press the buttons on the wall in the order specified in the letters, and then hold the yellow ribbon while placing their hands in the boiler. Inside, the evil spirit tells them they shouldn't have come, and says bye-bye as we hear the sound of the party falling and a silly melody. Yosuke and Ayumi's party is now done for the game. Meanwhile, Satoshi's party places the marble statue on one of the figures in the music hall, opening up the passage to the principal's office. There they find the spirit of the principal being tortured forever, and it asks the party for help. The students try to reason with Shinozaki's evil spirit, but she tries to kill them by gradually collapsing the floor in the room. Going back into the principal's office afterward allows you to find a statue of a baby, which you can place on top of the other blue figure to reveal a secret passage and find the piano key. Then we can finally approach the piano and open it. Naomi plays, and then all the spirits of the students brought here appear to guide the way. The party marvels at the sheer number of poor souls brought here. They lead us down below where we have to do a short maze. Here the two parties finally meet up and combine into one. The evil spirit gives Yuka a splitting headache, but the good spirit comes and stops her before Yuka's head is literally split in two. The good spirit is defeated here by the evil one, but she lends her remaining power to the party before she's gone. They fall down another big hole where they finally find the body of the girl who fell down the stairwell 40 years ago. While her evil spirit initially objects, when the party tells them they know about her sad story, she eventually agrees to go with them so that she can move on to the next world. But in a surprise twist, the spirits of all the other students brought to the school step in to put a stop to it. Why should only she be allowed to move on while all the other spirits brought here have to suffer? And so the spirits take control of the dead body which the party has to fight, in the only part of the game which uses RPG Maker's battle system. We can choose to only use 3 of the students, each with their own abilities and weaknesses. You actually do have to use strategy to win, and after several attempts, I think Yosuke was my MVP here. He has spells to either increase the stats of your characters or decrease the enemies, which was the easiest way I found to defeat this boss. Afterward, we can see the girl floating upward in a spire of light, saying, "Thank you." The party then hears the sound of a bell and is informed by the spirit that they have only until the bell rings 10 times to find the secret passageway out of this room and get to classroom 29, her former classroom, which is the closest place to the real world. Get there and we have to keep walking forward through a passageway of light without ever looking back. The game will give you a few reasons to turn back, but keep going and everyone gets home safely. In the ending, Yosuke wonders aloud who it was who spread the ghost story Ayumi was telling at the beginning of the game, and Ayumi thinks that it must have been the spirit of the girl herself, wanting to be found. The route I showed in this video leads to ending rank A, the best ending where everyone survives, but there are a total of 7 different endings, depending on which of the characters die. There are 3 rank B endings, 1 rank C, and 2 rank D endings. I actually got rank C for my first playthrough, and then easily got A for my second. Not only the ending itself, but the events near the end of the game are surprisingly quite different depending on which route you take. In most of them, Satoshi and Naomi become a couple, and this and the relationships of the other characters is expanded upon in the different endings. Completionists will want to find them all, since the game certainly isn't long. My first playthrough only took me about 3 or 4 hours, figuring out everything on my own, except for that one part. but a speedrun can even be completed in under a half hour. The ending shows the credits, but aside from the playtesters listed, the game was actually made by only 3 people. Makoto Kedoin is the main creator of the series, and here he did almost everything himself, and is credited with design, planning, scenario writing, and even character design.
Written, directed, edited, starring, and catered by J. Prescott Sherman.
Here he refers to his team as Kenixsoft, but in later games it's Team Gree. Yeah, I know it looks like Gris. The only other 2 credits in the original PC-98 game are someone named Toyotaka Kaeda, who is credited for background graphics in only this version, and the music composer Mao Hamamoto, who became the main composer for the entire series. What music there is in the game is actually pretty good. RPG Maker's built-in music driver is surprisingly robust and pleasant sounding, even though it only uses the PC-98's crappy old monaural FM sound chip. Hamamoto's compositions give the game a properly chilling atmosphere, and the few up-tempo tunes make surprisingly good use of bass and percussion. Some of these almost have a Streets of Rage vibe to them. But anyway, let's move on to the ports. A decade after he made the original, Kedoin decided to remake it for Japanese flip phones. Corpse Party New Chapter was a complete reimagining of the game, which would serve as the basis for all subsequent versions. In this one, you're exploring an elementary school instead of a high school, and there are 4 new characters, including a teacher. The characters are split up into tiny parties, which each get their own separately released chapter of the game. 4 chapters were released between 2006 and 2007. A 5th chapter, which would conclude the story, was planned but was never released for flip phones. The game is longer and slower moving than the original, with mostly all new music, including what would become the main theme melody hereafter. You also do get much better looking character portraits, and as you can see, luckily this game has been preserved and is available to play. The next year they tried releasing it for Windows under the title Corpse Party Blood Covered. This was the first version of the game that wasn't made using an RPG Maker. The 4 chapters from the flip phone version were enhanced and expanded and released between 2008 and 2011. This version also finally added the 5th chapter and even some unlockable extra chapters. More yet were added in later versions. The characters also sometimes have voices delivered by amateur voice actors. Eventually, this version was also released in English on Steam in 2016 as simply Corpse Party. But the first version to finally launch the game's popularity was the 2010 PSP version titled Corpse Party Blood Covered – Repeated Fear. Now we're talking. Everything here feels like it's finally approaching its final form, including a pretty nice arrangement of the soundtrack, a proper opening sequence, and voices from professional voice actors. The characters finally feel like they've been fully brought to life. The PSP game was also ported to iOS and even a 2015 3DS version. Then in 2021, it was finally ported to most of the modern consoles of the time in both Japanese and English. This one definitely feels like the most complete, final version of the game. And there were sequels and spin-offs as well, but I'm going to limit the scope of this video to remakes of the original. Corpse Party is a game I knew nothing about and probably never would have played if it weren't for an official request from one of my patrons, but I'm glad I did. The original is a surprisingly well thought out and tightly arranged adventure for something made using an RPG Maker, and the game's story and setting feel genuinely creepy and tense. I was truly uneasy about what I might find in the next classroom while playing the game without a walkthrough. But as for limitations of this version, I have to say I'm not really a fan of games that look like they were made using RPG Maker in general. There's a certain flat, bland look that you don't tend to get from games made from the ground up. Also, obviously the character drawings done by Kidoin himself aren't the prettiest thing to look at. But both of these small criticisms are of course to be expected given the very small team who made this game and the tools they used. Overall, I definitely have a certain soft spot for the original PC-98 version. But yeah, if the Corpse Party series looks like something you'd enjoy, then why not give it a try on your preferred platform? You might just find yourself stuck in this old school for a very long time.
Thanks for watching this creepy episode of PC-98 Paradise. It was a request from my longtime patron, Ragna, and also generously sponsored by the excellent boys and ghouls displayed on your screen. Hope to see you back again soon.